Thank you so much, Rachel, for that wonderful video. And I'd like to introduce you up onto the stage as well, who's agreed to, as Rachel's helped agree to launch Wentworth for the Voice tonight. Rachel is a former resident of Bondi, something I'm still extremely disappointed about. You know, there's still time. We miss having her in Wentworth, but most of us know her best through her work as an extraordinary filmmaker. She's the co-founder of Blackfellow Films, director of too many films to mention, but let's note Radiance, Jasper Jones, Brand New Day, the pioneering documentary series First Australians and the Australian Wars, the biographical drama Mabo, and her wonderful ABC TV series Total Control, which is the story of a strong, independent woman played by Deb Mailman, who goes to Canberra and gives the political system a vigorous shake. Now that's a role model. She's also co-chair of Australians for Indigenous Constitutional Recognition, and Rachel has taken this year off from filmmaking to put her energy into campaigning for the Voice referendum. And of course, she's no stranger to politics. Sorry, it's a long intro, Rachel. When she was just a child, her late father, Dr. Charles Perkins, was taking Rachel's to protests and meeting pushing for Indigenous empowerment. Back then, in the early 70s, her father was calling for greater Aboriginal control over Aboriginal affairs. And that's exactly the work that Rachel is continuing today. Can everyone please welcome Rachel Perkins? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't know what this was going to be like tonight, and can I say, as I approached and I saw that there was a crowd here, and then I got closer and closer and saw how many of you were here, and it just really, I've just moved so deeply that you've come out in such numbers in support of this most worthwhile cause. I feel stronger in the fact that Nolene is here giving her staunch support to this cause, and that gives me great strength. Thank you, Nolene. I'd like to also pay my respects to the Bidjigal, Birrabagal and Gadigal people of this nation. La Perouse is a community that has been staunch and strong for as long as I can remember, and my father has many lifelong friends in your community. So thank you for everything that your community does for us. Well, the people of Wentworth have achieved what everyone said was unachievable at the last election, and now I'm here to humbly ask you to do that again. For us, but also for yourselves, because together we want to modernise our nation and give the rightful place for Indigenous people in this country's birth certificate, if you like, in the most important legal document in this country. That is where the recognition of our deep past and our enduring presence should be. And it is a recognition for not only Indigenous Australians, but our fellow Australians who share this country with us, and it's part of your identity too. This group is one of the first to form to bring this yes to fruition, and I thank you for your leadership in coming together, and of course it takes great leadership. Thank you, Allegra, to bring this group together. People are here due to you and also for the significance of this issue, and so thank you very much. There was an invitation in the Uluru Statement from the Heart. I was a delegate. I was elected by my community just outside of Alice Springs, out in the country. I was elected to attend the dialogues, and I was part of that moment when all of that 3 years of that phase of discussion about what that recognition would look like crystallised in that moment. And it was an extraordinary moment of unity and purpose collective aspirations of Indigenous people from around the country, and I'll forever be proud about being part of that moment. But it did offer an invitation for the Australian people to walk with us, and it was a very deliberate decision that that statement was not handed to politicians. It is still in the possession of the people that organised that those dialogues, and it will not be given to politicians. It is given to the Australian people, because of course only we can change the Constitution. It is our Constitution to change, and it will not hang in Canberra until that work is done. So we don't have long to go. In the Uber on the way over here, I was counting the days, and I think we've got about, not the date isn't official, but I think we've got about 154 days to get this done. That's not an official announcement, that's just my, calculation in the Uber. So, but we know it's going to be somewhere between October and November, so time is short. But polling is looking good, and it will change as we go. So it's important not to be distracted by the, troughs and highs, but just to keep very focused on the task ahead. And I think that if I can be so bold to suggest what your job might be, those of you who've come along, is to be confident and bring the change and the mood that this country needs. Bring a positivity to the conversations you have, and lift people up with your spirit for change. Because that's essentially what we're doing. We're bringing a positive change to the country, and the people that you talk to need to feel that from you. And of course, yes must come from everybody. It must come from Teal voters, it must come from Labor voters, Liberal voters, Greens voters. We need to win, as Allegra pointed out, 151 seats across the country. We have to be out there all at the same time, everywhere. It's a monumental task. But what we are asking for is simple. And I think that's keeping it simple is the way to talk to people about it. And it's been expressed tonight, that deep connection to country for 65,000 years, that deserves to be in our Constitution. That recognition that other comparative Commonwealth nations have needs to be in ours. We need to modernise this country. And the way that recognition is expressed is through the voice. That is what Indigenous people have asked of their fellow Australians. Because although symbols are important, we need structural reform. Those who say no say, oh, well, it should just be in there, as a recognition, but without the voice. But that would just be symbolic and would not change the power balance in this country. It would not ensure that we are heard. And we are sick of not being heard. As Allegra pointed out, my father dedicated his life to changing the paradigm for Indigenous people in this country. And I grew up hearing his frustration, again and again. He'd spend his time writing reports, putting recommendations to government, and then being ignored. He'd work with Indigenous people, encourage them to get together and come to the meetings and let's discuss and what's the plan, and we'll put this report together, we'll give it to government. Kept on going back with good faith over decades, trying to have the voices of Indigenous people heard when laws and policies were made about them, and just continually being frustrated. In 1995, he spent 3 years prior to that on the road, writing a report called the Social Justice Package. And one of those recommendations was for constitutional recognition. And that report was shelved by government and has not been picked up since. He went to 17 regions, talked to thousands of Aboriginal people. When Megan Davis and Pat Anderson were leading the dialogues, people asked them, what happened to that last report we talked about on constitutional recognition? For too long, Indigenous people have not been heard, and we have had a gutful of it. And as Marcella Langton describes, this referendum puts a line under that. And you know, I was reminded of this when I was in Alice Springs about 2 weeks ago, which is my community. I forgot to introduce myself, Aranda and Kalkadoon woman. And I was in Alice Springs on Aranda country, and the media circus that arrived in town to talk about the plight of my people in our country without talking to the local strong women's group, the traditional owners, the Central Land Council, the only representative body, SNAKE, the Children's Advocacy Group, none of them were talked to. You know, we were used as a political football, and that's what we find again and again and again. You know, we are sick of that. We want to be heard, but the way that we can be heard is through the moral weight of the Australian people. You standing behind us and saying they deserve a right to be heard. Your voice gives us a voice, and that's why constitutional enshrinement is absolutely imperative, because it has the moral weight of the Australian people saying, listen to them. And that is why constitutional enshrinement is critical to the voice. So, as Allegra mentioned, I am normally a filmmaker. I've taken, some people will be relieved actually that I'm not making films. They'll be like, oh, thank God. In fact, that one was a little rough, I must say. That was made for like 2 cents, and there's quite a few mistakes in it. But anyway, I have taken a year off to commit to this, getting this across the line, because truly this is a once-in-a-generational opportunity. You know, we know what it will be like to win this. It will be an extraordinary moment of unity. As Noel Pearson describes, it's Indigenous people being recognised, but it's also Indigenous people recognising the Australian state. It is a moment of unity. I hope if we do this successfully, it will lift not only Indigenous people up, that Australians have backed us, but it will also be a great recognition for non-Indigenous Australians to say, we have stood by the First People. We have acknowledged their rightful place in this country. On the other hand, to lose it would be just unthinkable. It cannot happen. And I'm determined that it will not happen, and that is why I'm here tonight. And I'll be spending pretty much all of my time over the next 154 days making it happen. So I have come here to humbly ask you to walk beside us, as the Uluru Statement asks. Walk with us on this journey. You know, let's modernise our country, let's bring the nation together, because, and all we needed for them to say is one word. And what is that word? Yes! What is that word? Yes! Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for speaking tonight, but for the work that you're going to do to make this happen, because there is only one word that we have to answer, and that is absolutely yes. Thank you. I'd now like to ask my colleague Jonathan Potts up onto stage. Jonathan is a volunteer project lead for Wentworth for the Voice, and we'll talk to you a bit about his experience volunteering, and we're going to talk about how that you guys can really lead this conversation in Wentworth and make that difference. Jonathan.
Thanks, Allegra. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Potts, and as Allegra said, I'm the project leader for Wentworth for the Voice, and I've been asked to speak to you about why you should volunteer for Wentworth for the Voice. I can start by telling you a little bit about why I'm volunteering. And I'm not Indigenous, I'm no expert on Indigenous policies or Indigenous issues or anything like that. And I suspect a lot of you out there probably are fairly similar. But look, after 50 years of living on this earth, I do have a reasonable idea of what is right and what is wrong. And I think it's wrong that First Nations people are the most underprivileged group in our society. It's wrong that their issues are a political football, as we just heard. It's wrong that our constitution ignores the people and culture before European settlement. And it's wrong that for their entire existence since 1788, they've had governments impose solutions on them with no say in those decisions. And plenty of the actions by government, those solutions, and inaction, deliberate inactions by government have been very, very deeply wrong. It started out horrific, and it only gets slightly better. Displacement, war, murder, rape, theft, betrayal, slavery, stolen children, youth detention, deaths in custody. Let's send in the army. Let's take away their cash. Royal commissions with absolutely no action and no follow through. When I think about the depth of those wrongs, I want to do something about it. And now, tonight, and in the next 6 months, I have an opportunity to do something that I feel is right. And for me, that something right is volunteering with Wentworth for the Voice to make this thing happen. A bit more about how I've come to this point. So I first became aware of the Uluru Statement from the Heart pretty late on, really. In the last federal election campaign, Allegra stepped up and told us it was important for her. It wasn't a big issue. It probably didn't win her any votes, but she did speak up about it very strongly, as you've heard tonight. And then our incoming Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, also stepped up and said that he would take the voice to a referendum. And then in the past 12 months, those promises have become more concrete. We know the question, we know the amendment, and we roughly know the date. Okay, I think I'm on board. I'll volunteer to help this happen. It's meaningful. It'll be fun along the way. We'll do something good for the country. And then Peter Dutton decided to oppose the voice. And then I knew that I really had to step up, right? As Allegra said, this wasn't going to just happen. We're going to have to do something. It's going to be a battle. For me, it was it's time to turn my volunteering up to 11. And what does it mean to volunteer? Well, we volunteers will be out in the community, wearing t-shirts, showing our support for the voice, talking to voters about the voice, posting on social media, and informing voters at the ballot box. We'll talk to strangers. We'll find out what matters to them. We'll find out that we actually agree with them on a lot of things that we both care about. And we'll have an opportunity to inform them and convince them of why voting yes is important. And regardless of how that conversation finishes, we'll leave them feeling a bit more connected, a bit more cared about, and a bit more positive about the voice. And it's social, and we'll be meeting at cafes and pubs, connecting within our local neighbourhoods, and everything we do, we'll do together, and we'll make new friends along the way. I volunteered on Allegra's election campaign. I'd never done anything like it before. I had many conversations with voters. I know I changed people's perceptions, if only a little bit, but I know I had an impact. And when we multiply that by hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, we really make a difference. It was one of the best things I've done in my life. Now, why should you volunteer? Well, everyone has different reasons for volunteering. I've talked to you about right and wrong. The voice is the right thing to do. It's simple. It will give Indigenous Australians a say in their future. You might be out of your comfort zone at times, volunteering, door knocking someone's home, having difficult conversations with family and friends, posting about your beliefs, opening your heart on social media, working long shifts at polling booths. But I offer you this thought, that real achievement only comes through sacrifice. Step up like Allegra did, like Albo did, like many non-Indigenous people around Australia are doing for the voice. Get out of your comfort zone. Do more than you thought you could. When it gets to December 2023, win or lose, know that you did everything you could with no regrets. And along the way you will have fun, you will meet new people, you will learn new skills, you'll have lots of valuable positive conversations in our community, and you'll be proud of being part of Wentworth for the Voice. So, So join us tonight. We have like 250 people in this room. That's a great starting point. Invite your friends and family. Don't be shy. Talk to them about why it's important to you. encourage them to get on board as well. It'll be hard work, it'll be challenging, it'll also be fun, but the victory, and there will be victory, will be euphoric. It will be something to be proud of for the rest of your life. So, yes, I will see you out there.
Hi everyone. I would also like to acknowledge the Gadigal, Birrabirragal and Bidjigal land we're meeting on today and acknowledge that sovereignty was indeed never ceded. My name is Ella Finlay. I am Allegra's Community Engagement Officer and I am the last speech of tonight, so we're nearing the end of the evening. I'm also specifically involved from the office side of Wentworth for the Voice campaign, working with our incredible volunteers. Can we just get another round of applause very quickly for all the speakers we've heard tonight? And of course, I also want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's, not a bad place to spend your Monday night. It's a lovely view, but it is significant that you've all given up your Monday evening, so a round of applause for all of you as well. So I think, as both Allegra and Rachel have very eloquently put tonight, it's clear to all of us that we're going to have a really historic opportunity come October or November or 154 days when we turn up at polling booths to cast our votes. And the Voice to Parliament really is the first step towards reconciliation with First Nations people, and it's the constitutionally enshrined recognition that should have existed from the point of creation of the document. Giving Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities the opportunity to have a say in the policies that are tangibly affecting their lives is the reason that I'm sure many of you have turned up today, because you all want to make that happen. But, as I'm sure a lot of you also know, the referendum really is going to be a numbers game. We're going to need to counteract other electorates that could have stronger no votes than us, that don't have any community campaigns like us, that have Liberal MPs that aren't supporting the Voice and are speaking out against it. We know that the No campaign is becoming increasingly more well-funded, and figures like Warren Mundine, like Peter Credlin and Tony Abbott are really giving wind and publicity to this movement, as I'm sure you've all seen. This No campaign is the enemy that we're facing. They will run a huge advertising campaign, and they are really clinging on to their most dangerous piece of messaging, being, if you don't know, vote no. And that's the reason why it's not enough, unfortunately, for all of us to just turn up here tonight, even though I wish it was. And in the face of this enemy, I've been thinking a lot recently about how I would feel if come December we have a no result, and I feel like I didn't do everything I possibly could to make the yes happen. But, again, as Allegra said, we have some significant things that the No campaign doesn't have. Wentworth itself has passion and people power like no other, as was shown in the election last year. We have a community that has turned out and that we know can turn out again. So I want to very briefly, and I promise it will be brief, explain what we want to achieve in this campaign and how we're going to get there and how you all can help us. Obviously, part of trying to achieve true reconciliation is getting as high of a yes vote as possible. And the only real way that we can try and achieve that and combat this misinformation that we've heard about tonight from the No campaign is trying to engage with every single voter in Wentworth. Wentworth for the Voice is going to be running lots of activities to engage with the people of Wentworth in respectful conversations, including leafleting and stalls, kitchen table conversations, and holding public forums like our one on June 8th that you should all come to at Padua RSL. However, the key way in which we're looking to engage with as many people in the electorate as possible is through door knocking. We want to knock on every single door in the electorate, not to tell people they have to vote yes, but to have respectful conversations and discussions about the Voice and target and answer the questions of those who feel unsure but would not otherwise seek out answers or more information, because those are the exact types of people that the No campaign is trying to target by telling them to vote no if they just don't know. But unfortunately, I can't knock every door in the electorate, and I really would if I could, but I just can't. What we need tonight is people to put their hands up and commit to hosting events. be it door knocking or others in their neighbourhood, be it holding conversations, be it leafleting or stalls, setting up stalls at markets. So here is the ask I have of all of you tonight. Is there anybody in the room who is willing to put up their hand and host just one event on a weekend or in the evening? Let's hear them. Wow, okay, can we give a round of applause for those people, please? Amazing work. Can I get those people who put their hands up to come up to the front? That's my next big ask. Woo! Wow, wonderful. So, what we're going to ask of you guys today is we have 12 neighbourhoods we've segmented Wentworth into. We're going to ask you to take some initiative and find your sign on the ground that correlates. We're going to ask you to go around the room, pick a corner of the room and hold that sign up high. And we want everybody else in the room to go and sign up to volunteer. You're not signing up to host an event, you're just signing up to attend, and that's all we're asking of you tonight. So before you leave, can you make sure you scan that QR code, sign up on our sign up form officially? Wonderful work. And can we get another quick round of applause for all those incredible people? Wonderful. The final thing we wanted to do before we wrap up for tonight, we'll get a quick photo. I think Allegra wants to say her thank yous, and then we'll start our sign-ups.
So we're going to spread out a bit. I think, are we going to spread out our friendly sign-ups around the room? Yeah. Okay. So, excellent. I just want to start, as everyone's going to say their go and sign up, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's come, but also to all those volunteers who've got involved already. Thank you so much. And thank you to Rachel and to Lily and everyone for being here tonight. It's going to be a very, very special movement. So thank you, everybody, and can't wait to get going.